That's supposed to do that. It's supposed to go here. System's acting up. Okay, how's everybody doing this morning? And let me get rid of something over here. Okay, get that ready here. Oh, shoot. There we go. All right, so after yesterday's power malfunction throughout Idaho, the eastern Idaho, with hundreds of trees being blown down and power lines dropped all over the place from north of Rexburg down past Pocatello. There were power outages everywhere. Not all one connected one, individual ones where trees were taking out power lines here and things going out there. Oh yeah, it was interesting. And then doing the what I do every day, writing down numbers from the previous day that YouTube's saying I had. All of a sudden they dropped off last Friday's 48 watch hours and took it down to 1.5 watch hours. That's all people watched of your videos was 1.5 hours. Well, I went into the live stream in the morning on Friday, and it still said I had 14.5 watch hours just on it. For follow-up, not counting the 16 watch hours of the live itself. And I know because there was both Phelan Clan Wolf and Crew 1351 were here for the entire thing. So that's 7 hours of watch hours right there. So 3.5 hour live on Friday. Yeah. So YouTube is ripping off its small creators again. Taking the watch hours away, then they get to keep the money, but they still charge the advertisers. They report the amount watched and the amount paid out, and then they just keep it all. So the platform is ripping everybody off. They're ripping off the advertisers and they're ripping off the small platform creators. So, and they didn't send out the notifications until anyways. And it's not even putting out. I mean, it's they're blocking the check it. They're blocking the comments from me. So I'm gonna try to put that on here again. And let's see if it goes out, guys. Also sending out, because it didn't come out here on the StreamYard at all. And so sending out, let's see if this one here goes out. Late. Let's see if that goes here. That popped up there. Oh, that went out there. And I'm watching on the other side. So if it comes from StreamYard, all comments are going out. But if it comes from my channel, they're blocking comments from me on my YouTube channel, and they're blocking comments from others like Crew 1351 and others that are saying hi and asking questions. They're blocking those comments as well. So needs to get the feds involved and just go ahead and just totally pull the streaming platforms under federal control so they can't do this crap. All right. Anyways, let's get on with, and Dave is here. How you doing, Dave? So yeah, so people are probably saying hi to each other, and YouTube's blocking it. So, anyways, let's get on with the thing here. Go to here. Boom. There we go. And all right, so I took off the marker here, and let's get that removed. There we go, and hit save. All right, so let's pick up here, picking up where we left off yesterday. Jerry Rourke and Marcus Young were talking with several of the Venture Crew parents about what happened in Cambridge earlier in the day. Most of the more vocal ones were those that were mad about their children being involved in the gunfights with the biker gang. They were getting louder and louder as Jerry and Marcus tried to calm them down. Our daughters were there too, Marcus finally shouted back at them. My Danny was out in the street facing them down with Sarah, Jerry said. So, we got two different Jerrys. So was my Jerry, Reverend Gray barked loudly. It was the first time he had spoken during the meeting, so everyone turned towards him. Hang on. In shock. In shock. I'm proud of her and mad as hell that she did that. I'm scared to death she'll have to do it again and to protect her little sister and brother, but I won't stop her. She will do what I can't do. To go either, but I am proud that they did go and stand up for what's right, and I hope they don't have to do it again. But I know they would. But I know that they will, that they all will, unless we want to give up and be raped and killed, Kaylin Watt said as she held Tammy in her arms. That's so much BS, one of the other parents yelled. We don't have to fight anyone. We can stay right here in safety and wait out the die-off after as the sheriff calls it in his books. That's right, another parent shouted. Dad, you're so full of crap, your blue eyes are turning brown, Marty Pratt said in disgust. You refuse to listen to the truth, and truth is that they said that they were going to rape, sodomize, and kill all of us. If they attacked the town, they would have found out about the mine from someone there, and they would have come up here for more raping and killing. Those guys had tattoos for every sex act and crime they committed, whether it was with women, men, girls, boys, including those under the age of 10, or with animals, Randy said as he stepped to the front of his room and pulled out his big boy knife. That's why I slit the leader of the first group's throat, to protect Jerry and the rest of you. Several of the parents gasped hearing Randy brag about slitting the biker's throat. Oh, give it a rest, people, Jerry shouted loudly. The only reason Randy slit that slime ball's throat was he was in front of me and the other girls, and we couldn't get to the scuzz bucket first. There's no way I was going to let him anywhere near my mother. One of the mothers stood up with tears streaming down her cheeks and walked up to Randy. The sheriff told us sometimes saying I was wrong isn't a sign of weakness, but a sign of true strength. And it definitely is when followed by what do I do to make it right? We are wrong. Thank you for what you did. But what can we do to make this right? Mr. Pratt groaned loudly and said, really? For starters, Randy looked at Mr. Pratt. Those who think this is a short-time problem soon to be fixed by Uncle Sam, you can pull your collective heads out of your collective. Randy, Reverend Gray said quickly. Manure cavities. Take off your stupid rose-colored glasses and wake up to reality. Tawaki has happened. It will be decades before we have anything like we did before. The power grid is gone for the most part. The only reason there is some intermittent power in town is that the power comes from the hydroelectric plant on the county line. The sea oil rigs in the Gulf and off the coast of California are gone. Most of the oil rigs in Texas, Oklahoma are gone. The internet is gone for the most part of the US and soon will be for the rest. No more new computers or cell phones. As far as technology goes, we are back to the Wild West in some things and the Middle Ages in others. Yeah, we have a year to figure out how to make toilet paper because I sure don't look forward to having to wipe my butt with dry leaves or corn cobs, Marcus said. Everybody groaned and wiggled. It was 2 hours before dinner when Kathy and the rest got back to the Donaldsons. Linda met him at the door and told him that the phone started working an hour ago, that someone named Sarah wanted Kathy to call as soon as she got back. Kathy called Sarah immediately to see what was wrong now. While Sarah was explaining the situation with the President Pro Tem of the Senate and her old unit, Walt whispered in her ear to ask if Kathy and Joseph could come to the ranch as soon as they could. Kathy passed on what Sarah told her and Walt's request. Linda told everyone that she heard on the ham radio about the meteor impacts in the Far East, Asia, India, and Eastern Europe and Russia. She expressed concerns about Joseph and Kathy being on the road after dark if the meteor impact started here with the setting of the sun. Kathy called Sarah back and expressed the concerns about the meteors. Sarah suggested that they bring go bags in case it was too late for them to drive back to the point where the meteors would be coming down in their area. So, if so, they could spend the night with them in their bunker. Jake said he would monitor the radios and see if he could find out at what time the meteors started to impact. Lori said that she would put together something that they could eat on the road. Lonnie said that he would go with them to show them the quickest way there and back. Joseph and Kathy were loading the go bags into the Raptor when Jake when Jake ran out to them with the news. It appeared the meteors started to impact around 8:15 with the smaller ones and about 9:30 with the bigger ones. With the bigger ones starting to come down. 9:30 with the bigger ones starting to come down. All right. I need to change that from numbers to actual letters here. AFIF 8:15 and 9:30. Sometimes when I'm just typing it up in the beginning, it's just getting it out there, and I'll just throw numbers in there quick. But yeah. All right. About 9:30, the bigger one's coming down. England was only taking small impacts so far, and Scotland has reported only 2, but they are much further north than London, and Walt's ranch was further north than Indian Valley. When they were loaded and about ready to pull out, Mary came running out of the house with a DVD jewel case. Give this to Sarah. What is it? Kathy asked. I recorded the battles today with my scope, and I told her I would send her a copy. You didn't show this to your mom, did you? Lonnie asked with concern. I'm crazy, not stupid, Mary said quietly with an extra helping of indignation. Lonnie just chuckled as he threw a bag in the back of the pickup. I'm ready. When Walt and Sarah asked Kathy and Major Donaldson to come to the ranch, And we say, just to make sure people aren't confused, Major Joseph Donald. Really? Joseph is not properly done. And this just ticks me off. And you get the, where is it? Oh, great. They don't have it here anymore. Where is it on the review on the new one? I hate the newer versions of Word. They screw around and hide the stuff so it's not what you think it is. Spelling and grammar. It's not even giving me an opportunity here to go in and put through the auto spell. Markup, paired, hide. All the new updates from Microsoft are really screwed up. Export, close. Oh, let's put options way down in the bottom instead of up in the list where they're supposed to be. Proofing, autocorrect. Add. Okay. Boom. There it goes. See, all the names and stuff are all auto-corrected on the other computers already. And it goes from one computer to the other, except to the one that got the latest update from Microsoft. It's always screwing up here. When the new ones get updates, they eliminate all the ones that the user programmed in for autocorrect. Goes back to their bare naked default. All right. Asked Sarah, when Walt had Sarah ask Kathy and Major Joseph Donaldson to come to the ranch as soon as they could, he wasn't expecting Lonnie to come with him. When Walt met them, when Walt met them as they got out of the truck, Lonnie was surprised. Lonnie surprised Walt by giving him a bear hug and apologizing for not trusting Walt with what he was doing with the leased land. I would have hugged you earlier today, but we were under a bit more stress, and it didn't seem appropriate. Yeah, and I'm going to put a comment in there. Yeah, we might have gotten a few questionable looks. John Regan and Dino Jackson, the SEAL team commander, came out of the ranch house and walked down the steps to the group. John, Commander Jackson, hang on. Let me see who's talking. Okay. Got to change this because this goes against his rules later on. You'll find out what those rules are here in a couple pages. John, Dino, this is retired Marine Corps 4th Recon Major Joseph Donaldson and retired Master Gunnery Sergeant Kathy Dyer, who is on his security staff, also 4th Recon, and one of my special deputies. Walt said, pointing to Joseph and Kathy. Joseph, Kathy, this is Navy Commander Dino Jackson and Lieutenant Commander John Regan of SEAL Team 3. John is Anna's brother and has been here many times. The four exchanged handshakes and greetings and other pleasantries. Joseph introduced his grandfather-in-law to them. Sarah came out of the house wearing blue jeans and a plaid snap-up shirt. She had her three There were 3 gunslinger holsters on and a new double shoulder holster rig that Stan had modified to hold the 2 Glock G29's FF's auto pistols that she had brought back from the battles with the bikers earlier. She skipped lightly down the steps and waved hello to Kathy and went straight to Walt and wrapped her arms around him and guided him away from the group several yards. I love you so much, Sarah cooed as she squeezed and pressed her head into Walt's chest. That was the best shower ever. I can die happy now. You sure? Walt smiled slyly. You don't want to have our first night together? Of course I do. I'm just saying I'm very happy now, and it's the happiest I've ever been. I am too, Walt answered back without the same enthusiasm. You don't sound like it, Sarah said, with a worry creeping into her voice. Oh, Walt sighed. It's just having the president pro tem of the Senate here. It's going to open us up to outside eyes, and I really don't like that. I understand, she sighed. I wish you could just stay down at the DHS depot. That would draw too much attention to the depot and the supplies there. It's bad enough with the county warehouses not being washed all the time. I just hope no one tries to get into them between patrols. I think I'm the only one besides you and your deputies who knows about all of them, Sarah said, and that's only because I saw the invoices on your desk. Nosy, Walt teased. Just watching out for you. Thank you, Walt pulled her tighter to him. Excuse the intrusion, Kathy said. She walked up to him. Mary said to give this to you. She held out the DVD in the jewel case. What's that? The scope on Mary's rifle has video capability and a shotgun mic. She was able to record the battles with the bikers, Kathy said. Sarah breathed deeply and took the DVD. Whew. I thought it would help come to grips with any guilt I might have later. I want to be able to hear their threats and know what I did was the right thing. You did. Hang on, let me. You did, Kathy. You did, Kathy said, and I'll kick anyone's ass who says differently, including yours. Sarah smiled and handed the DVD back to Kathy. Go get David and have him set it up in the theater room. In the theater room, and have all the adults go in there. Then you can give an explanation of what happened before. Oh, sorry. What happened before and what happened and what is sorry, I typed something in here and it's not making sense to me, which means it's bad. What is happening that they of what happened, take the before out. Explanation of what happened and also what is happening that they can't see clearly. Oh, and explain what the tattoos mean. Are you sure? Yes, I need to have my mom and dad know what they were and what they were planning to do to us. Kathy nodded understandingly. I can do that. Then she turned and walked up to the house. As she passed Leon and the others, she asked them to join her. Walt guided Sarah further take the out of there, further down the driveway. And towards the barn. I think you need to ride Ajax. He misses you. I know he does, but I want to hold you. You can hold me tonight. In the barn, Walt helped Sarah get Ajax saddle. Then he handed her a large box tied with a string. What's this? Sarah asked with a little girl Christmas smile on her face. A hero present. What? Actually, I got it for you last year for a Halloween gift, but I couldn't give it to you then. Sarah set the box on a bale of alfalfa and tied the string. Carefully, she opened the box. Oh, wow, this is fantastic. In the box was a brand new black Stetson hat, a black duster, black vest, shirt, pants, chaps, and Tony Llama boots. Can I try them on now? That's why I gave them to you. Walt smiled. In a matter of seconds, she had stripped out of all of her clothes except for her panties and was, I'll leave it, yeah. Except for her panties, and was pulling on the new clothes. As she dressed, Walt picked up the clothes she had been wearing, folded them, and put them in the box. When she was dressed in the new clothes, she spun around. How do I look? Sexy and scary at the same time. Cool, she chuckled and smiled broadly. Just one more thing, Walt said, as he pulled a black string bow tie out of his pocket and slipped it around her neck and tied it. This was Dan's. I want you to have it because how special you are to me. Sarah's eyes started to tear up and she grabbed Walt in a hug. Oh, Walt. After a minute, they broke the hug and Walt reached over and picked up her gunslinger rig and handed it to her. We can get Ron in town to make you a new one in black to match your, we can get Ron in town to make you a new one in black to your specifications that will match your new outfit. And a set of with extra magazine pouches too. Yes. Sarah strapped on the rig and Walt handed her the shoulder holsters. We can go tomorrow. That would be nice. She slipped her arms through the strap on the shoulder holsters. Straps, plural. Straps on the shoulder holsters and snugged them up. Then Walt held up the new duster for her. I'll call him tonight. Sarah slipped the duster on, and Walt turned her around and fussed with the collar and the lapels of it. There, you look perfect. So now what? Do you want to undress me? She smiled and tilted her head. Later, right now, you need to ride Ajax down to the first creek crossing. Oh, you want me to put on a show for the President Pro Tem of the Senate and his Marine escort. Just a meet and greet and beat it back here so we know we know when and I spelled that word wrong. They're coming, like you did with Michael and Jenna when he first brought her here. Okay, Sarah grabbed the saddle horn and swung smoothly up into the saddle. Her duster flaring out behind her, and patted Ajax's neck. Can you check on my laundry, and when it's dry, give the duster to Kathy. Tell her I'm loaning it to her until I can find one for her. Until I can find for her very own. I'll put very in there. For her very own. Also find out what size hat she wears. Yours was a little big on her. Yes, dear, Walt said warmly as he smiled broadly up at her. Sarah melted a little and leaned over to kiss him, saying, I can't tell you how much I love you. And she kissed him longingly. When she broke the kiss, Walt started walking to the door to open it for her and muttered to himself, I'm an idiot for not marrying her sooner. As Sarah rode past, she said, maybe, maybe not. Hang on, lowercase. Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know. You could have been too distracted, and we would have missed getting some things that we need. We got several more people in here. Welcome. If you can, please hit the thumbs up, and don't forget to make a simple comment of just hi. Will work. Helps me out with YouTube's analytics. In the theater room, Kathy was explaining what had happened up to the point where the first shots were fired. Kathy was amazed at the sound quality of the shotgun mic and catching everything that was said. It made it so much easier to explain. She had paused the video where the one biker was drawing his pistol to shoot Sarah. Mrs. Ahern, do you see that biker drawing his weapon to shoot Sarah? Yeah, hang on, let me fix this. I need one over there. Yes, yes, Carol said hesitantly. Watch as I watch the video. Watch as I advance the video in super slow motion. As Kathy advanced it one frame at a time, they watched as the biker got the drop on Sarah and made ready to shoot her, or so they thought. That was what was going to happen. In one frame, Sarah's guns were still holstered, and the next they were out, pointed on target. In the next frame, she had fired both guns twice. In the next frame, puffs of red mist could be seen erupting from the bikers. Kathy stopped the video and rewound it. Here it is in real time. When the video played at normal speed, it looked like a sped up Hollywood film from the 70s. Holy shit, David exclaimed. My God, she's fast, Martha gasped. That's impossible, Commander Jackson said in disbelief. Hang on, let me put his first name in there. Jackson said in disbelief. Damn, Earl whispered in awe of his. Sarah got 18 of the 32 bikers in this encounter. If she had another pistol, she would have gotten 24. Heck, I'm not sure she didn't get 2 with 1 bullet a couple times. Kathy took a breath. The fact she tried to get them to leave, and when they didn't, and when they didn't, hang on here. She waited, and when they stated they were going to rape us, she still let them make the first move. She let them make the first move, and then she stopped them. If she hadn't been there, I think I would be dead along with a few others. We would have beat them, but the cost would have been high. Kathy pushed the fast forward on the remote, Now let's look at the next battle. It is even more impressive. As the video sped forward, suddenly Carol cried out, "Stop! What just happened?" Kathy rewound the video to where Sarah was puking at the fence. Sarah was having shooter's remorse. A few stifled gags could be heard. At the sight of her vomiting. She fast forwarded the video to where she was explained to Sarah about the biker's tattoos and played it at normal speed. She stopped it after Randy slit the biker's throat. Everyone was looking in shock. Even some of the SEALs had been taken aback by what they saw. And Stan said loud and clear, "Hard times, hard choices." "Agreed," Commander Jackson added. "Amen to that," Thomas said with a slight chuckle. "That's our girl and her friends." That's our little girl. That's our little girl and her friends. Is that really the truth about their tattoo? Carol choked out. Yes, it is. And there were some in the other groups that were a lot worse offenders. So yes, everything you heard about them is true and then some. Show us the rest, Mark said. By the end of the video, everyone was deep awe of Sarah and Kathy and the Ventures. Walt watched the hang on here. Outside, Walt watched the line of Humvees wind its way up the 7-mile long driveway from the road. He didn't like this one bit. He wished that the city council and county supervisors had been able to agree on building an EOC, Emergency Operations Center, and shelter at the high school. Sarah was almost back to the house, and the Humvees weren't. Hang on. Weren't even. Half of the way from the crossing. Ajax was running like the devil himself was after him. Walt could tell that Sarah didn't even have to urge him on at all. He was clearing the fences by a good 2 feet. The horse loved to run with Sarah on him. In the twilight under the gathering clouds, Sarah and Ajax looked like a spectral ride on its mount and that nothing could stop. A chilling shiver ran up his spine, and Walt suddenly knew that she was destined to be a dealer of death in the years to come. "Who is that?" Carol asked from behind Walt as she and Earl came out of the house. Hang on. With others following the Aherns outside to get some FR. Hang on, let me change this stuff just a little bit. Hey. Hang on. Hang on. Let me fix this up. Here. Got a few oopos here. Let me get rid of that one. They were gathering under the Porsche. I can't say French words right. in front of the house to get some fresh air after watching the video. Yes, who is that? Commander Jackson asked as his hand asked as his hand was going to the pistol on his going to the pistol holster on his belt. Are they a threat? Oh, she is a threat, just not to us. That's who the Indians call Lightning Death. Walt responded with Jason Red Hawk's comment from the Labor Day fair flashed into his mind, and a grim smile set across his lips. That's Sarah, Mick said as he and Danny stepped next to his mother. Where did she get that outfit? Danny asked Walt. I bought it for her last year, but just gave it to her while you guys were watching the video. She looks so cool, Mick said proudly. She kind of looks like Batman from Gotham by Gaslight, Danny said. Sarah and Ajax cleared the last fence and crossed the driveway and stopped short of the Port Chalet. Sarah had started her dismount slightly before Ajax came to stop and landed standing next to his head. She reached up and stroked him a couple times and said, "Go get an apple, boy." Ajax neighed and trotted off towards the apple tree by the wash station. Sarah looked at the group and saw them staring at her what she would later say were stupid, goofy stares. What? Sarah asked with a sheepish grin on her face. Commander Jackson stepped forward and extended his hand to her. Mrs. Rogers? Hang on, that's misspelled. There we go. Let me make sure that's spelled correctly. Shift F7. Does it work? Okay. And the Orsis in the new versions of Word don't have nearly the information that it does in my old version from 2015. Yeah, so the 10-year-old version of Microsoft Office is better than the new one. All right. Shoot. Hang on a minute. Let me change that back for a second here. I want to do something. I'm going to do a quick search for everything here. Control F. Go over here. Replace with MISSUS. Find next. Yes. Oh, it was just the one that was wrong. Okay. That means all the rest of them I did right. You are the most amazing woman I've ever met. What? A confused expression dropped over Sarah's face. Your actions in the video were incredible, John said with a chuckle. I doubt the team could survive a head-to-head stand-up match with you. Damn, you're fast. Indeed, Commander Jackson spoke again. I hope you'll be helping to watch over the President Pro Tem of the Senate. Only while he's staying here at the ranch. She looked over her shoulders towards the Humvees heading away. I hate to be a killjoy, but she looked back at the group. Everyone but Walt, Major Donaldson, Kathy, and the SEAL should go back inside. You can do a meet and greet in the Grand Hall. Danny, gear up. She looked at Walt. I'm going to get Randy, Jerry, Cindy, and Danny for something special. Can you radio them to get ready? They'll be spending the night here. She turned and let out a whistle, and Ajax came trotting over. I'll be back before dark. Before dark, sets in. How will you identify yourselves if you're late and at start? Commander Jackson asked. You can't miss Ajax. Besides, we'll be heading towards the barn on horses. Who else would be doing that? She grabbed the saddle horn and swung up into the saddle, tipping her hat at the commander and galloping off. Sheriff, that's quite a woman you have there. You don't know the half of it. Five minutes later, Danny ran up to the front door of the ranch house dressed in her duster and cowboy outfit with her Henry rifle in hand. Seconds before the Humvees pulled up, the two lead Humvees pulled through the port chalet, crochet, and stopped while the third stopped under it, and the remaining two stopped behind it. A Navy SEAL was positioned at each of the support columns for the port chalet. Commander Jackson stood to Walt's left and Major Donaldson to his right. Kathy was to the right of the major and a half step back. Danny was on the top of the steps in front of the doors. The front passenger door opened and Sack Davies stepped out. He quickly stepped up to Walt and greeted him and shook his hand, then Commander Jackson's and then Major Donaldson's. Then he stepped back and opened the back passenger door. While that was happening, two Forcon Marines got out of each of the other Humvees. Senator Matt Mitchell and President Pro Tem of the Senate stepped out and turned back to help his wife, Karen Mitchell, out of the Humvee. Chris guided and introduced them to Walt first, then Commander Jackson, then Major Donaldson. Once the introductions were done, once the introductions were done, Walt spoke up. Matt, I need to set ground rules for you being here. Okay, he responded. Hang on. Matt responded with a bit of surprise at the informal use of his name. My ranch and my home, my rules. First rule, first names, no titles. Second rules, SEALs and fourth Forcon, stand down. You're making me nervous. We are secure here. Matt laughed. I can live with that. Third rule, a lot of us go around armed. After all, this is an open and concealed carry state. Fourth, no shooting at shadows. They're my people sneaking around, keeping the place secure. Fifth, and this is the most important rule. He turned to the Marines. Don't piss off Sarah. Chris, Kathy, Danny, John, and Joseph broke out in full knee-slapping laughter. Dino tried but failed to stifle his laughter, as did the rest of the SEAL team. Matt and Karen and the Marines looked totally confused. Walt was about to explain when Kathy barked out, Fourth Forcon. Most of them replied, Yes, Gunny. Shoulder your weapons and follow me. Double time. We have a video to watch. She turned around and took the steps two at a time, with all but one following her. That one was Captain Scott Byers. He stopped in front of Joseph and saluted. Major Donaldson, sir, he said, and Walt coughed loudly. Sorry, sir, have it. That's understandable, Scott. How have you been? Joseph asked him. Walt gestured to the front door as he addressed the Mitchells. You should watch it. You should watch it too. It'll give you a better idea of what is going to happen. Doing fine, sir. How did you Kathy? Scott asked. All right, but can we get a bite first? Matt asked. My security contractor hired her for me. It was strictly coincidental that she was recon. Joseph smiled. She's been the best thing for my kids. They love her, boot camp and all. All right, so if you don't know what I'm doing there, you got two conversations going on at the same time, side by side. So that's what I'm reading it back and forth. I've seen this done in a couple other books, and I kind of liked it, so that's why I did it here. It's a little confusing at first, but once you catch it, you got two words from one or one word from other, and it's going back and forth the conversation. You should wait and eat to eat until afterwards. Trust me, Walt said slowly. Scott chuckled. That's good, sir. We miss her in the unit, as I do you. Okay, we will, Matt acquiesced. But life goes on, and I have to keep the wife happy, Joseph quipped. I can see that. So what about what is the video about? Scott inquired. Our run-in with a vicious bike gang this morning, Joseph said. Walt turned to Dino. Well, basement or the modular? I'll ask after the video. Smart. Walt turned and hurried after the Mitchells and saw Danny walking with them towards the theater room. Kathy was finishing up the video explanation when Sarah, Randy, Jerry, Cindy, and Danny quietly entered the back room. After Kathy finished, she asked if there were any questions. Scott Beyer raised a hand. Yes, Scott. Kathy. Was this video doctored for speed? I mean, is she really that fast? Kathy buried her face in her hand as she turned away. Several loud groans came from the back of the room, along with a loud, ah, crap, from Jerry. Everyone turned to see six cowboys standing in the shadow at the back of the room. They started walking towards the front of the room. With soft chuckles. Scott, Danny spoke up. Were you asking for yourself or because you heard your team's comments during the video? Both. Good answer. When they got to the front, Jerry hit the light switch and all the lights came on. Kathy blacked out the projector. Sarah stepped to the center in front of the screen and slowly drew the revolver from her holster on her right hip and dumped the shells into her right hand. I got too many ands in her. Hang on. A comma in there, and 1, 2, 3, 4. The same thing here. Comma, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sarah stepped to the center in front of the screen. Slowly drew the revolver from the holster on her hip, dumped the shells into her right hand, and pocketed the shells in the duster. That flows a little bit better. And Tammy's here. Rebel Canners is in the house. About 15 minutes ago. Sorry I didn't look down at the comments. It's easier for me to read off the big screen over here than the smaller print here on StreamYard. But yeah. She closed the cylinder, holstered the revolver with a high-speed spin. Then she shifted her weight slightly to her left foot, to her right foot, picked up her left foot. Then she slid the left foot behind her right knee, caught the leading edge of her duster with a spur, and pulled it back around her. Her left hand, she took hold of the corner of the duster as she lowered her foot and brought the corner of the duster up in front of her and tucked it into her gun belt and slid it backwards, catching the left side of the duster with it to expose a second revolver in cross draw fashion and a third on her left hip. This also exposed the two Glock G29 SFs auto pistols in her shoulder holsters. Danny walked up and stood a little bit in front of her and to the right of Sarah, the right side of Sarah, facing the same way as Sarah, so she couldn't see Sarah. She pulled out a bottle of water and held it by the cap with her thumb and index finger out to her left side, which barely put it in front of Sarah. "Don't pee your pants, Sarah," Danny said with a smile and a wink. Then she let go of the bottle. It fell almost a 16th of an inch before it came to rest on the hexagonal barrel of Sarah's pistol. Now, getting tongue-tied here, folks. The room erupted with, "Holy crap, geez, oh man, damn it, holy mother of..." "Watch your language," Cindy shouted quickly. I don't think I've ever seen anyone move that fast," Matt said. "That's what I said the first time I saw her draw," Kathy commented from the corner where she had retreated to. She's not done," Danny said as she turned and stepped away. Sarah looked down at the Mitchells, winked, and suddenly Sarah's pistol was back in its holster and her hand was wrapped around the bottle, which seemed not to have moved at all. She stepped forward and handed the bottle to Karen Mitchell. "Am I that fast?" Sarah asked, looking up at Scott. "Yes, ma'am," Scott said quickly. "Would you like to be a Navy SEAL?" he added softly. "Sorry, but Forcon has first dibs," Kathy answered. "Nope, the sheriff has first dibs and I have second," Chris said. Matt spoke. Matt spoke up. "I noticed that after the first encounter with the gang, you had a..." Hang on, I need to fix this. Thought I had fixed it. All right, let's see here. Save. I got a feeling that the new improved Microsoft Word is changing things when I transfer from the other computer to this computer. "You had a bout of regret," Karen finished for him. Sarah smiled and knelt on one knee at their feet and leaned her arm on the other knee. "That was putting it mildly. Really? I never puked so hard in my life. I wanted to die because I thought I'd become a vicious murderer. Kathy straightened me out on that. Do I enjoy it? No, not at all. Will I do it again? To protect the innocent, I will." Matt nodded acknowledgement to her. "What about the rest of you?" Karen Mitchell asked. Asked the Ventures. "About the same," Danny said. "Me too." Yeah, there are a bunch of people with, quote, the same name but different spellings. Danny with an I, Jerry with an IE are girls, whereas with a Y, it's boys. "Me too," Danny agreed. "Ditto," Jerry said. "No regrets," Randy answered. Cindy stepped forward. "Senator Mitchell, Sister Mitchell, these Gadianton robbers must be stopped. I I don't want to do it, but it must be done, so I will. Karen Mitchell gasped at Cindy's religious reference and quickly stood up and wrapped her arms around Cindy and hugged her. Then she motioned for the others, put an S on others to come closer. As they did, she included them in the hug. Sarah was still kneeling on one knee in front of Matt and looked up at her friends and Karen. Matt leaned forward and put his hand on her shoulder. She turned her head back to him and looked into his eyes. Time these next few years, just keep yourself grounded in your family and those you love, Matt said. I will, and I will try not to burden with too much of my feelings. You and Walt? We got married today, Sarah said a little louder than she intended. What? Today? Karen said quickly, and many of the Marines sucked in a breath. Yes, for the last year and a half, Walt and I have had to take the high road and not act on our feelings so we could concentrate on first getting him elected, then getting the county and our families ready for the asteroid. But now that the asteroid has passed and there's not much more preparation to do, we could finally act on our love. So you and Walt got married, huh? That must be the reason for Rule 5, Matt said. Rule 5? Sarah asked, confused. Yeah, Danny said. Walt laid out 5 rules to the Marines and SEALs. Rule 5, the most important rule. Don't piss off Sarah. She did quotation marks in the air. Sarah fell back on the floor laughing and soon was beating the floor with her fist. At first, everyone stared at her, confused her, and what was so funny. Then one by one, everyone started chuckling as they watched her roll on the floor laughing. After several minutes, Sarah tried to sit up. Ow! She grabbed her sides. That hurts. And then she started laughing again, only to be interrupted by the occasional ow. If you're going to lay on the floor laughing, I'll just go to bed by myself tonight, came Walt's voice from the back of the room. What? Sarah stopped laughing, rolled over, and sprang to her feet. Ow, 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 with each movement. Then added as she looked at Walt, not funny, babe. What brought that on? Walt asked as he got to the front of the room. Sarah bubbled out a giggle and an ow. And Danny said with a snicker, Rule 5, the most important rule. Don't piss off Sarah. Sarah chuckled again with an ow. Hey, it was followed up. It was a follow-up to Rule 4. No shooting at shadows. There might be people sneaking around keeping the place secure. Suddenly, Sarah's eyes turned dark and the air in the room got cold. She turned and stared hard at the Marines. Hurt my friends, and I swear I'll rain so much hellfire and brimstone that God will be jealous. Even the hardest Marine squirmed in his seat. Rule 5, Recon, Kathy spoke up. I know this goes against your training, but for the next 2 days, leave the security to Sarah and her crew. Chris spoke up from his chair in the back. Yeah, she shot me. And then she shot me too, just for laughing at him getting shot. DHS agent Sal Peters added. You want another? Sarah barked, biting the inside of her cheek to keep from laughing. No, they said quickly. Don't you? All the Marines sat up straight at that. Chris and Sal snickered quietly and ribbed each other like preteen boys at their big joke. If any of you get cabin fever and feel you need to patrol, grab one of the crew. They'll take you out. I'm sure they would love to exchange skills, Walt said. Will do, Walt. Scott said, "Copy, Marines." "Copy, sir," all the Marines answered. Another one of these. All right. 1, 2, 3. Now, oh, good. Now, there is roast beef sandwich fixings in the dining room and salad on the sideboard. Walt turned to the Mitchells. "We can discuss your preference on where you want to sleep once we're out in the grand hall." "Excuse me, Walt," Karen whispered. "Did she really shoot the DHS agents?" Walt quickly turned his back to the exiting Marines, struggling to suppress a laugh. Hang on here. "No," he squeaked out. "That's an inside joke. I'll explain later." Sarah snickered and held her sides and said, "Ow." Snicker, "Ow." Snicker, "Ow." Yeah, Sarah has a habit of laughing too hard and getting stitches or side cramps when she laughs too hard and long. In the grand hall, Walt introduced the Mitchells to the Smiths. Soon after, Dino Jackson and Scott Byers joined the group as they discussed the logistics of the Smiths' property and bunker. They were excited that the property had a runway and a hangar that would accommodate 2 helicopters, and it was 10 minutes closer to town than Walt's ranch. Jerry and Randy, hang on it, I spelt Jerry wrong. That's the female, Jerry. Jerry and Randy came running into the grand hall through the side door. "Meteors coming down big time," Randy rasped out, gasping for air. "When did you first see them?" David called over to them. "We were walking Mick and Danny home. We ran right back," Jerry said, also gasping for air. "Dad," Walt shouted across the room, open up the safe room," as he headed for the front door. He saw Sarah already there going outside. Hearing footfalls behind him, Walt glanced over his shoulder as he went through the door and saw Chris, Scott, and Dino hot on his tail. Outside, Sarah had already cleared the porche and was in the middle of the main driveway looking up at the eastern sky as she slowly walked backwards. As the others joined her, they were amazed at the number of meteors in the sky and the difference in numbers from the north to the south. To the north, there are maybe 1 or 2 small flashes every 15 to 30 seconds, while far to the south, there were hundreds, and some of them were streaks, and a few of those were big and descending low below the horizon where they could have made it to the surface of the earth. Suddenly, there was one streak that passed overhead and disappeared in a bright flash to the west. "Whoa," Sarah said, memorized. "That one exploded in air." "It must have been mostly ice," Chris said. "Huh?" Scott said, confused. "I thought the reason we could see meteors was that they were burning up in the atmosphere." "That's true, but if it's mostly ice with a layer of dust over it or a collection of small rocks bound together with ice crystals, we would see it until it got hot enough to flash the ice into steam. Then it would explode." "I'm impressed." "Oh, Chris, I'm impressed," Walt said. Walt teased. "Yeah." "You've been doing your homework." "Nah, I've been watching Nat Geo. They had a good program on the Tunguska event in Russia. That was one of the most plausible theories of what caused it." "Still impressed." "Now I'm even more scared," said with a quivering voice that brought stares of disbelief from Dino and Scott. Why is that? Walt asked. Well, if some of the bigger asteroids from the belt were of that type, we could get several Tunguska. Yeah, that events across the U.S., maybe here in Idaho. That would be very bad, Chris said. Why? Scott asked. The Tunguska event flattened 770 square miles of forest, and it was estimated the airburst had the energy from 3 to 5 megatons of TNT. They believe the meteor size was somewhere between 200 and 600 feet, depending on whether it was a comet or a denser asteroid. Not good, Dino said flatly as he started sidestepping back towards the house. Walt smiled to himself at Dino's actions and then said, let's get everybody in a safe room. Sarah called the crew and warned them. Then called Jason. Dad, have Mom call the village. Chris, get your guy. Nancy into your basement. I'm going to hurry to the Ahern. I'm going to hurry the Aherns along and radio my deputies. Walt turned and ran towards the Ahern's modular home. 10 minutes later, almost everyone was in the safe room or the tunnel because the safe room was full. Safe room was full. Specialist in charge, Chris Davies, was standing out on the main. Was in charge. Was still standing out in the main driveway, talking to the Secretary of Homeland Security on a sat phone, giving him an update on the situation. Walt stood nervously by his friend as the light show in the sky intensified. So we should be safe unless we take a direct head hit from a VW-sized one. Yes, sir. I'll tell him. Sir? Hello? Can you hear me? Chris folded down the antenna on the phone. We lost our connection. The satellite probably took a hit, Walt said. We may lose them all by the end of the week. Yeah, Chris said disgustedly. Let's get inside before we take a hit. Yeah, you don't want Sarah shooting you again if I get hit out here, Walt chuckled. Chris laughed. Did you see those Marines squirm when we said they shot us? Yeah. John snickered. I'm saving that for a good ribbing later. They were about to the front door when a bright flash behind them made all of them dive through the door. Shit, that was bright, Chris said as he picked himself up off the floor. Just then, the shockwave hit the house and shook it. They all dove to the floor again. That was barely a mile away, Walt said as he jumped up and hurried towards the basement door. Yeah, for all we know, that could have been straight above us. All right, finally done with chapter 1. I thought I was going to be able to go through it quicker, but I got a lot more dense paragraphs in this, so it took longer to read. All right, let me get a drink of water here, folks, and you should hydrate too. All right. Friday, October 23rd, 2037. Second full day of the passing. As luck or fate would have it, on the first night of the meteor shower, no large meteors made impact anywhere in the country that night. There would be many smaller ones the size of a golf ball or smaller found over the next few years. When everyone was secured in the tunnel or the actual safe room, Sarah made the announcement that she and Walt would be staying topside to monitor the situation. David started to say with the equipment in the communications room he could monitor everything from there when Nikki elbowed him hard in the solar plexus, knocking the wind out of him. Those that caught the interaction chuckled at David's stepping in it. Mary spoke up quickly and said, "That would be fine, but be ready to join them as soon as it got unsafe to remain up there." That was when Walt realized why Sarah said they were going to monitor the situation topside. It was about 5:30 when Walt was shaken awake by a small earthquake. That had to be about a 2.2. At least they're dropping off in intensity and frequency, he said groggily, then realized Sarah was not glued to his back. He raised his head up off the pillow and twisted his neck to look at her. He was surprised to see she was not in bed. Then he remembered hearing his mom and grandmothers talk about how they have to get up in the middle of the night to pee more often than their husbands. Thinking that was just a woman thing, he figured she had gotten up to got to the bathroom and dropped his head back to the pillow. Then he realized he didn't hear her yelp at the earthquake. He quickly rolled over and slid his hand across the sheets on they were slightly warm, but they were slightly warm, but not nearly as warm as on his side of the bed. He sat up and looked at the hope chest / changing bench she had placed her clothes on last night while they were that. He sat up and looked at the hope chest / changing bench she had placed her clothes on last night, and they were gone. Her holster and guns were there. No, one revolver was missing. He had bought the hope chest / changing bench for her soon after they started riding together. Last night, when he told her that it was for her, and when he bought it, she freaked out and was dancing all over the room. Hang on. He excitedly all over the room. He remembered that she said she needed to get the rest of her clothes from her parents' house. Since the two of them were the only ones spending the night outside the safe room, he figured that she was getting her clothes now. He swung his feet over the edge of the bed and pulled himself upright and stretched the kinks out of his body. Once he worked out all of the kinks, he hurriedly dressed and headed to give her a hand moving into the ranch house. He stopped to grab his Stetson by the front door. No, as he stopped to grab his Stetson by the front door, he did a double take in the mirror. Sarah had left several monkey bites on his neck. He put his hat on and buttoned his shirt one button higher. Mom is going to give me a hard time about those, he thought to himself, and went out the front door. Walt was passing the main barn when he heard the whine of one of the electric John Deere gators heading towards him. In a few seconds, Sarah came around the corner with boxes piled high on the back of the gator. "Hey, babe," Sarah called out as soon as she saw Walt. "Hey, monkey," he called back. Sarah's face was screwed up in thought as she pulled up to Walt. You could have asked me to help you, Walt said, smiling. Ignoring what he said, she asked him, monkey? As she climbed out of the gator, Walt laughed and pulled down the collar, exposing the monkey bites on his neck. Yeah, monkey. A, I, in a flash, she was laughing too. Sorry about that. No, you're not. He leaned down and kissed her. After he kissed her, she said, you're right, I'm not. She giggled and pulled him back down and kissed him deeply. Then she slipped her lips to his neck. Hey, Walt said as he jerked back. What, don't you like it? Yeah, but pick somewhere where it doesn't show. Okay, when we get back to our bedroom, I will. Walt rolled his eyes and smiled. You better smile. Now get in so we can unload this stuff. Now let me. My eyes are starting to gunk up again. I have got to get a bigger monitor in here because these 32 inches don't have the resolution that like my 40-inch has in the living room where I have the other computer I write on after hours. All right. Let's see. Walt jogged around the other side of the gator and stopped short and stared at something on the ground in front of the gator for several seconds. Then took a couple of steps, bent over, and picked up a strange-looking shiny rock. What you got, babe? A meteorite, I think. Cool, Sarah said and jumped back out of the gator and ran to see. The sun was just starting to rise, but due to the heavy cloud cover, it was barely lighter than nighttime. The only reason Walt had spotted the rock was that it was shiny in the headlights of the gator. Sarah pressed closer to Walt. Maybe Mom or one of the others at Redoubt Village will know for sure. We'll have to keep an eye out for more. We'll have to keep an eye out for more. Come on. She gave his arm a tug as she headed back to the driver's seat. Walt turned and took 2 steps and saw a bigger shiny rock over by the barn, reflected in the taillights of the gator. He walked over to the rock. Sarah called out, do you have another one? Looks like it. He bent down to pick it up. Can you bring a flashlight over here? I think there may be more of them. They found 2 more near the drip line of the barn roof. They figured that the pieces of meteorites, if that's what they were, landed on the barn roof and bounced off, landing where they did. They were going to get everyone to help look for them once the sun came up. They were going to get everyone to help look for more once they and the sun were completely up. But it started to drizzle, so they hurried back to the gator and sped off to the house. They got there and were starting to unload the gator when Scott Beyer and the rest of the Marines came out of the house. Morning, Scott. PT time? Walt asked. Yeah, he replied. Don't worry, boys. The earthquake scared the crap out of me and make me screech like a sissy girl. Sarah laughed. But you are a girl, one of the younger Marines said, causing everyone else to cringe at his faux pas. True, but I'm not a sissy girl, she winked at him. Yes, ma'am, sorry, he said, blushing. Hey, don't worry about it, she smiled and walked by carrying a box of clothes. Can we help you guys? The Marine asked. No, but thank you for the offer, Sarah said as she went through the door. Walt chuckled at the exchange. The rain is going to pick up and we'll have some volcanic ash in it. You may want to do PT undercover. It's just a smart thing to do, Walt advised them. You may be Marines, but there's no sense in getting sick from something in the rain. He added it as he went in the house. The barn has a nice open space you can use. That's good advice. Thank you. All right, Marines, line it up. Double time march. As Walt headed to the stairs, he saw his grandmother, Martha Rogers, coming up from the basement. Good morning, Grandma. Good morning, Walt. Did you have a quiet night? Yes, we did, but we found some rocks this morning that might be meteorites, so I'm a little concerned about what it could mean. We could all go out and look for more after breakfast, Martha suggested. I was thinking that too, but it started drizzling and it looks like it may come down hard soon. Well, we can check later after the rain. She smiled understandingly. We can discuss it at breakfast. Sounds great. And he hurried up the stairs with the boxes. He was going down the stair. He was going down the upstairs hallway when Sarah came out of their bedroom. Just put it on the floor by the hope chest for now. I'll start putting things away after all the boxes are up here, she said as she walked by him. All right. Did I show you the walk-in closet? Sarah spun on her heels and started back towards the bedroom. Walk-in closet? No. Sorry, most of your clothes can go in there. We can get a dresser. Get a dresser of your choice in town today or tomorrow. I already have a dresser, she said as she followed him into the bedroom, and he set the boxes down. Set the boxes next to the stack she'd brought in. Then walked over to the door by the hope chest and opened it. I thought that was just a small closet, she said as she walked into the door and looked in. As she walked up to the door and looked in, oh my stars, Walt, this is huge. We could get wild in there. It's so big. Maybe. She turned around and hugged him. You are so worth the wait. An hour later, second trip to the modular home and packed up the rest of her belongings and put them into the bedroom. She had unpacked most of the boxes, and that sounds backwards. It almost sounds like she put the boxes away in the closet. But and put the contents away in the walk-in closet. Walt smiled at her giddiness as she put her things away. She stopped and Mary hollered that breakfast was ready. Stan had gotten the SEALs to help set up several folding tables and chairs in the main part of the grand hall. Two additional tables were set up in the dining room for serving food and drink. The Smythes and the venture crew took on the role of servers. Danny had everyone circle up in the grand hall and had Cindy say grace for breakfast. Then the two of them had everyone line up in two lines, and they served breakfast. Breakfast scout camp style. When everyone was served and eating, Matt leaned over to Scott. Scott, I got to admit that Walt's family really has it on the ball. No wonder the president wanted to send us here. I think it has more to do than just that. Hang on. Yeah. the air from the heating vent blows up right up into my eyes and dries them out really bad. Ah, uh, uh. I think there is more to do. There's more. I think there's more to it than that. Just that. I was talking with Candace last night, and she said that when DHS held the second conference call about the asteroids with all the states and federal branches, that it was this Walt Rogers that interrupted the call by saying "blood moon falling" to the professor and redirected the direction of the meeting into action quickly with a plan to relocate the populace, uh, the coastal CO, the coastal populace to the national parks and Midwest states. Scott replied. That replied, and that. And then asked, "Did you know that he was the one that he was the one who wrote those books on this type of event that DHS wanted everyone to read?" "You mean he's that Walt Rogers?" "That's what Candace said." Scott nodded. "I think he's our best bet for getting us through this alive and getting the country back on its feet. Back on its feet. I mean, from what I get from talking with everyone, he's a no nonsense guy for his age, and he has plans on plans on plans." I overheard the SAC tell Candace that Walt has a sat phone that the Secretary of DHS gave him so they can talk securely at any time. "So it was Secretary Daniels who wanted to send us here." "That's my guess," Scott answered. "But why?" "I have no idea, but I do know there's a FPS officer stationed here on Walt's ranch." "Really?" Matt asked. Suspicion crept into his thoughts. "Geez, you guys are worse than a bunch of chatty old bats," Sarah said as she leaned between them. "I could hear you from the other table." She shook her head. "FPS officer Reba Trickle is up at Redoubt Village there, helping to provide security for the research facility. She is the daughter of Billy Trickle, whose trucking company brought most of our supplies. She missed her flight out of Reno after seeing that Senator Washburn got his transport out of Travis Air Force Base. Then she came here escorting Bobby's last shipment. Secretary Daniels thought that she should stay and watch over the research facility that Walt's mom is over. And since you have a large security detail here, Officer Reba Trickle would stay there in reserve. There's no conspiracy there. Oh, there's no conspiracy here." She took a breath. "The reason you were sent here is threefold. One, you are LDS, and there's a large LDS community here in Idaho that would fight to protect you. They are also the largest prepared community across the nation. You can rely on them to do the work that needs to be done. Two, this area has been hit the least by ashfall besides the New England area, but they have other problems that we don't. So we may be in a better position to recover faster. Three, being this far north, we're expected to get a lot less meteor impacts than the southern states. And that trend will continue for the next several weeks as the asteroids drug from the belt come at Earth. So it's safer up here than down in Arizona, New Mexico, or Western Texas. That makes sense, but how do you know all of that? Matt asked. That is classified top secret. You'll have to get the president to answer that. She patted them on the shoulder and walked away, leaving them both befuddled. You think she's serious about that last part? Scott asked after a few seconds. I don't know. She's hard to read. She was teasing you guys, Kathy said from behind them at the other table. About the top secret part, that is. The rest is common sense when you know how to look at things. And she knows how to look at things and see the secrets below the surface. How's that? Scott asked. Stan and Thomas told me that she figured the whole thing about the asteroids, whole thing out. Stan and Thomas told me that she figured the whole asteroid thing out last March. And I mean the whole thing. The relocation, supplies, damage, everything. You know the comment there, damage, everything. She's sharp. I wish we had her in the sandbox with us. If she's that sharp, why hasn't Secretary Daniels recruited her? Scott asked. Who says he hasn't? Matt ventured. You said that Walt is the one that's best. That's the best bet for getting us through this alive and getting the country back on its feet. That could be true, but she's the tool he's going to use to do it. As far as being recruited by Secretary Daniels, no. She's too loyal to Walt, Kathy added. Just then Walt's satellite phone rang. And everyone turned towards him. All of their cell phones had been dead for the past 2 days, so the sound of one ringing was an instant attention getter. Walt pulled out the phone and, without looking at the caller ID, answered the phone. Yes, Mr. Secretary. Scott and Matt looked at each other, and Scott nodded as they watched Sarah move to Walt's side. Yes, sir. He's here at my ranch. In fact, we're having breakfast. We have his full security detail here, plus Sack Davies and several of his agents, both Colonel Smiths, also Major Donaldson and Gunny Dyer, and 6 Idaho Rangers. He winked at the venture crew. In fact, I'd say he's safer now than you are. Walt nodded as he listened to Secretary Daniels for over a minute. He nodded as he comprehended what he was being told. Yes, I got it. We'll log on right away. Oh, by the way, how did your site fare through the night? He nodded at Sarah to go to his office quickly. Walt listened for there is okay. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Goodbye, sir. Walt disconnected the phone and put it back in his pocket. Chris, Candace, Kurt, Matt, my office. Kurt and Chris, you've been reactivated with the rank of brigadier. Joseph, you've been out too long to force activation, but if you volunteer, you could also be. If you volunteer, you're also a brigadier. You can join us for the meeting and decide afterwards. Walt turned to face Dino and Scott. I need four 3-man teams. An additional member for each team will be from the venture crew. The 5th adventure, Cindy, will be glued to Karen Mitchell. Teams will be set up. Will set up Overwatch positions. The ventures know where. If you have any infrared units to spare, please equip the ventures. They should sneak out as soon as they're geared up. Overwatch house or house and village? Danny asked. Just a house. Call the mine and have them overwatch the mine. Walt answered and then hurried off to his office. Cindy quickly moved over and stood next to Karen. Danny ran and grabbed Cindy's Henry rifle and brought it to her. Jerry, Randy, and Donnie started getting their gear ready. Scott and Dino started barking orders to their teams respectively. In Walt's office, Sarah was powering up Walt's computer and opening the wall safe when Chris led the others into the office. Gentlemen and lady, have a seat while I get this ready for Walt. Once she had it open, she pulled out the biometric pistol box and put it on the desk. On the desk. By then, the computer was up and running. She pushed the button on the monitor splitter, and the TV on the wall duplicated what was on the monitor, on the desk monitor. Walt came to the door and began talking. As you've probably guessed, that was William Daniels, Secretary of Homeland Security. Last night was a bit devastating for the U.S. and the world. Just about all satellites in the night sky were either destroyed or damaged. NASA is working. NASA is working with the DoD to find out which ones can be fixed and how long they will be down. If we have the same number of meteorites tonight, we can very well lose the damaged ones. And more. Really? I really messed that up. And more. He sat down and opened the pistol box and took out his DHS-PIV card and stuck it in the slot on the keyboard. We will lose a bunch of geosynchronous satellites over the next few days. NASA and the Air Force are trying to change their orbits and get them to change their orbits to keep them safe. The total updates are on Web EOC, which is what I'm logging on to now. Other bad news: we lost contact with the president's bunker. Security Daniels' bunker is semi in the dark. Their antenna array took a direct hit and was totaled. The techs are rigging up mobile satellite dishes and other technological magic, which is how they are back on Web EOC. The secretary had to go outside to use the sat phone because the landlines and VoIP lines are down. Two other bunkers have limited Web EOC connectivity. Others are also rigging mobile satellite dishes. DHS website opened up on the screen. Hang on, let me mix that in there. Hang on, I'll make this a little bit more. That's probably going to kick that down. Yes, it is. Bring it back. There we go. Chris spoke up. I take this is because of the lack of communication with the president's bunker. We were ordered to increase security measures. Correct, Walt answered as he worked his way through the menus to the status whiteboards. In the whiteboards, he found the folder titled Council and opened it. Inside were several new log entries. He opened the one titled Pro Tem. This one's for you, this one's for you, President Mitchell. Do you want a hard copy? Walt said, breaking his first name rule. Seeing the size of the file, Matt answered, yes, please. Walt hit the print icon and the printer began to work. Walt then moved the cursor to the log entry titled Facility Updates and opened it. It listed 12 bunkers, who was at each one, and the conditions of that location. Number 1 was Site R and was highlighted in orange. That was where the POTUS was. Orange indicated the status was unknown. Number 2 was highlighted in red and lined out. That was Cheyenne Mountain. It listed the vice president and a lot of generals and colonels. No wonder they reactivated us. They lost most of the chief staff at Cheyenne Mountain, Kurt said. There are a bunch with the POTUS that are unknown as well as the two. As well as that 2 other facilities, Matt added. And 8 more members of the president's cabinet, Chris noted. 8 more, Joseph asked, then added, oh, I see 2 were in Cheyenne Mountain. Okay. At the bottom of the list were at the bottom of the list were there were lit. At the bottom of the list, there were locations listed as non-federal sites. 2 of which were in orange, 1 was in green. The green one was council. As it listed the president pro tem of the Senate, Generals Candace and Kurt Smythe, General Donaldson highlighted in yellow, and then it said special resources. It lists SAC Chris Davies, his entire team, FPS Reba Trickle, Walt Rogers highlighted in purple, Master Gunnery Sergeant Kathy Dyer highlighted in yellow, then 2 names they didn't recognize highlighted in orange with the notation in the area. Next it had, did I read? Yeah, Walt Rogers in purple. Okay. Next, it had information and supply and listed everybody that had been evacuated from Boise. At the very bottom was Sarah Ahern highlighted in purple. Why am I on the list and why are Walt and I highlighted in purple? Sarah spoke up, obviously annoyed. I don't know, Chris spoke too quickly. Maybe it's in the printout for President Mitchell. Sarah walked over to the printer, picked up the printout that was just finishing. Everyone sucked in a breath, thinking she was going to look through it, but she quickly took it to Matt and handed it to him. Matt took the papers and quickly flipped through them, scanning for Walt or Sarah's names. On the last page, he stopped and smiled. Ah, it seems I'm to offer you 2 positions as Walt answered quickly, respectfully declined. Sarah glanced at Chris, ditto. Walt clicked edit, deleted Sarah's name and unhighlighted his, and added sheriff in the rank column. I'm still a resource, but not to be recruited. I understand, Matt smiled, and I don't blame you a bit. He flipped back to the first page and scanned through it more thoroughly. It seems I'm to swear in the Smythes as brigadier generals, and you 2, Major, if you accept the position. Not if I have to leave my family. I've been there, done that. He smiled grimly. Well, it looks like they want you to take charge of the fourth FORCON and set up a training facility somewhere locally and send out teams to recon the situation in the Northwest. In the Northwest. Hang on, let me think for a second. Friday. I think I got a date conflict here. So bear with me, folks. I got to do some quick research here across the books here. So this is Friday, October 23rd. Let me see what I have here in the other one here. Timeline. I said this was what again? This was the 23rd. Okay. Bring that back up. 23rd. It shows up. First full day of the passing. Night of the passing. Las Vegas flooded. Hoover Dam failure. Tempe flooded by tsunami. Okay, so that's on the 21st. So this is 2 days after southern Arizona got flooded. So yeah, okay. Gotta take this out of here. And stated, comma, the third, THIR, the third FORCON was STAT stationed in Yuma Marine Air Station, but he evacuated W8 when the let me bring that information back up so I get it right here again. Okay. See. The Hoover Dam failed and flooded the area. They were they returned to assist and rescues, but evacuated again when the where'd I lose it at? When the tsunami hit the area on the TWE and 21st, FIRST. They were supposed to recon the SOU south, the southwest. Hang on, getting the gunk out of my eye again. See, the second was to is to recon the SOU, the southeast, and the first forecon is to recon the northeast. Northeast. Major well, if that is it, then yes, I can do that here. Major Donaldson replied. Gunny, they would like you to be head DI. Yes, sir, Kathy said clearly. But Sarah and Joseph picked something up something in her voice. Picked up something in her voice. What is it? Joseph asked. Can I have a different status? What are you thinking? Temporary active reserve. That way I can remain a deputy sheriff. Of course, Matt said, smiling, S-M-I-L, smiling. And N-O nodded to Walt to adjust her title and status. Title and status on Web EOC. Thank you. Kathy said. Yep, see, there's a lot of little things I got to add in here. Ah, Vanessa Kitty came in. Let's see. Hang on. Those in here. Last night you became all messed up beyond recognition. No tab would open and only give some error message I never saw before. Then I rebooted the AP and had the same connection issues. On that error message, did they pop up a little squirrely message in funky letters all mixed up and stuff that you were supposed to type in that on it? So I got a couple things like that. Yeah. Woo! Excellent. Excellent. All right. Congratulations. Welcome to the Society of Home Ownership. That is some great news there, Vanessa. All right. Let's get back over here. All right. Thank you, Kathy said. Sac Davies, you are now regional SAC for the Western United States. Acknowledged Chris said with a look of concern on his face. You'll need to log into WebEOC with your own PIV for details. Chris nodded. I need to read the rest more thoroughly, but it suffices to say our leadership has taken a big hit. The Navy may have come out of this better than anyone. They had moved They had moved the majority of their vessels to above the Arctic Circle or down to Antarctica, and they placed many of their leadership on subs and aircraft carriers. Right now, DHS, FEMA, NSA, and the FBI are trying to compile a list of surviving federal employees and state leaders. Everyone acknowledged solemnly. Well then, let's get you three sworn in. After they were sworn in, Walt updated WebEOC and logged off. He offered the computer to Chris, who pulled out his PIV card and logged in. He logged off. Hang on, I want to change some things around here. Put a comma on there, comma. This is one thing I hate. Older versions of Word, if you save something to the dictionary, it kind of saves with that document when I move it between the other computers. But when I come over here, all the like WebEOC, which is a recognized word now, when I saved it as added to the dictionary on the other computers, I move it back and forth. It recognizes that. I don't have to redo on each computer. Here, I got to add it to the dictionary here. But WebEOC is a recognized government phrase for the last 30 years. So why hasn't Billy Goofgates had it added to the dictionary of Microsoft Office? Excellent, Vanessa. Is that so So is that a good move there of your change of station, move to Barksdale? Is that good or eh? All right. And WIT and switched. TV sharing. SH off. There we go. He offered the computer to Chris to pull out his PIV card and logged in. Everyone else started filing out of the office. Sarah whispered to Walt that she had a couple of questions for Chris and she'd be right out. Walt nodded and closed the door behind him. Before she could even say anything, Chris spoke. Yes, comma. I put your name in the report about yesterday, as well as several others. No, I didn't think they would offer you a DM position. Whoever did that obviously doesn't have access to your file. That's good, Chris. If Walt gets suspicious and asks, I will tell him. I know. Just don't volunteer the fact until you have to. I mean, really have to. I understand, she smiled. But can you downplay my activities with the crew and the Idaho Rangers? Sure thing, Chris smiled. Thanks. Something secretive is going on there with Special Agent in Charge Chris Davies and Sarah. I wonder what it could be. Well, I know what it is, but you guys are going to have to wait a while before you can find out. Shortly after the meeting, Deputy Chris Harden called from Cambridge with information about the biker Seth Dickerson. Doc Jordan took a couple x-rays and determined that the motorcycle frame, that the piece of motorcycle frame was into his skull about 1/8 of an inch. The doc removed the frame and quickly, QUI, and quickly the helmet too. Then Seth started to bleed badly, as head wounds do. But Doc was ready and able to quickly and was able to stop it quickly. Shortly after dark, Seth regained consciousness, and Chris started questioning him. Seth told Chris in gentle terms to go sit on a broomstick handle and spin. When he added, then he added, when his people found out what the people of Cambridge did, the rest of the gang would come here and wipe them out. Seth stopped talking when one of the men of Cambridge replied to that threat with the fact that Seth was the only survivor, and also the rest of the gang would never know what happened, and so the rest of the gang would never know what happened or where. Chris said that an hour later, several hooded men surprised him and took Seth at gunpoint. They locked Chris in the doc's bathroom. Chris said they were very apologetic about having to lock him in there while they took Seth for questioning. He said it was about 9 o'clock this morning when the doc found him and let him out. Chris asked around and found out that and found out where was it? Found out that Seth had been seen taken to the high school shop building. Chris found him there, there, severely tortured and barely alive. He was screwed to a wooden table, spread eagle with 4-inch screws and 12-inch lag bolts with fender washers through his screws in his hands. And there we go. With 4-inch screws in his hands and 12-inch lag bolts with fender washers through his femur and humerus bones to keep him from pulling free. Seth was missing most of his fingers and toes, but the wounds were cauterized. Several teeth were also missing, and there was a screw in one eye. His testicles were screwed to the table, and there were wires from the screws to a welding machine. When Chris asked Seth about Brian, this time he admitted that he took him from his parents without their permission. Chris said that he went to get Doc, but Seth died before Doc could get there. Then Chris said that there was a video camera there with the whole interrogation recorded on it. Yeah, the furnace just kicked on. I got this warm air just washing up over me. It's like, oh, I want to go back to bed. Oh, wait, never mind. Anyways, Chris had it, was going to bring it back with him, and said that Walt and Chris Davies needed to watch it for the information on it. Chris also suggested they tell Brian that Seth died from the head injury and not tell him about the torturing. Walt agreed. Chris also said that he had a few things to follow up with the Cambridge Town Council about Seth's torture before he headed back. An hour and a half later, Chris arrived at the ranch with Bernie and his wife following in their dune buggy of death, as people are calling it now. Walt led Chris, Scott, Dino, and Benny into his office. Sorry, I need to switch this around here. I don't have her. I haven't given her a name yet, so I'm gonna have to give her name out here shortly here. All right, into his office where Sarah had brought Candace, Kurt, Joseph, and Kathy, and was busy setting up the TV on the wall to play the video via the desk computer. Hang on, 76, and that was 56. So move this down here, back down. Let's check and see where I'm at. All right, 67. All right, there we go. When everybody was seated, Chris handed Sarah the camcorder. She plugged it into the computer and copied the video. Then she started the video and sat back behind Walt in a chair she'd placed in the corner. Matt smiled to himself. Sarah's ACT actions. The video started with Seth already secured to a large wood workbench with conduit straps. With him secured to a large wood workbench with conduit straps. 3 men wearing ski masks entered the view of the camera and took up positions around the bench. One of them, obviously using a voice distorter, explained what was going to happen to Seth if he didn't cooperate. Seth laughed at the men and said they didn't have the guts to do anything to him. Then they put Seth's folded pants. Hang on. A nearly naked Seth already secured thing. Yeah. Okay. Didn't have anything to do. Then they put Seth's folded pants under his head. They took Seth's belt and strapped Seth's head down so it wouldn't move. One of the men took duct tape and taped Seth's mouth shut. Hang on. With screws, S-C-R-E, with screws, so it couldn't move. All right, yeah. So they took Seth's belt and strapped Seth's head down with it. Sorry, I got to change this up here and use it to strap Seth's head down with screws. So he couldn't move it. There we go. One of the men took duct tape and taped Seth's mouth shut. Another took a 4-inch screw, put a fender wash on it, and screwed Seth's left wrist to the table. Then he took another screw and screwed his left hand to the table. Almost everyone in the room winched in sympathetic pain. Candace just closed her eyes and leaned back like she had seen it before. After Seth stopped screaming against the tape, the third man ripped the tape from Seth's mouth. Then the first man asked Seth how many people he'd killed. Seth starts to tell him what they can do with themselves, and the third man puts another piece of tape on Seth's mouth. The second man screws Seth's right wrist and hand to the table. When Seth stopped screaming again, they asked Seth if he was going to answer their questions. He shook his head no. The second man took a drill and drilled a hole through Seth's left shin and put a 1/4-inch by 12 lag bolt. Then put a 1/4-inch by 12 lag bolt with a fender washer. With a fender washer in the hole and screwed the leg down to the table. He did the same thing to the right shin. Then he put 2 more lag bolts in each shin and 1 in each forearm near the elbow. Then the first man leaned down and whispered into Seth's ear and told Seth that by the morning he would tell them everything wrong he'd ever done and every secret of the motorcycle gang that he knew. Dino had Walt stop the video and zoom in on the arm of the man asking questions. There was a tattoo. Barely showing. There was a tattoo barely. There was a tattoo barely showing. Hang on, I need to figure this out. Get it right. Uh, Seven. Okay. Beneath cuff of all right. Dino had Walt stop the video and zoom in on the arm of the man asking questions. There was a tattoo barely showing beneath the cuff of his sleeve that made Dino take a breath. When Walt asked about the tattoo, Dino explained that the tattoo belonged to a group of CIA interrogators from the sandbox. This guy was a professional. Dino said. Walt started the video again. The second man brought up a pair of cable cutters and a cutting torch. Seth's eyes widened, then hardened. For the next 3 minutes, the second man cut off all but the middle finger of each hand and cauterized the stump with the torch. Still, Seth wouldn't talk. And the second man did the same thing to his feet. Seth still wouldn't talk, but you see his resolve weakening. Then the third man took screws and screwed them into the arches of Seth's feet about 2 inches apart, but only about 1.5 inches deep. He took the torch and started heating up the screws one at a time, doing one on one foot and one on the other. By the time he got the fourth screw, Seth was trying to talk. The third man removed hang on. The third man removed the duct tape. Seth immediately started talking about all the bad things he had done. After several minutes, the first man asked Seth about Brian. Seth said that Brian was his nephew and that he took him from his lame sister and her wimpy husband because he knew they wouldn't survive what was coming. When the first man asked about where the bikers were headed, Seth shut up. The second man put duct tape back over his mouth. Candace spoke. Here comes the hardcore shit. Everyone looked at Candace as if to say, and what were we just watching? You're kidding, right? How could it get worse? Sarah asked in disbelief. Second man took the torch and went back to work on heating the screws in Seth's feet. The third man started cutting away Seth's underwear. Seth started to wiggle his hips around. The first man looked annoyingly at Seth. Stop or I'll cut it off and make you eat it. Seth stopped. The third man picked up the drill and drilled 2 holes through each of Seth's thighs and then screwed lag bolts and washers through to hold his thighs and hips still. Then they went back to removing his underwear. Seth started screaming to the duct tape that he would talk. No. You made us put the duct tape back on, and now you have to pay the price, the first man said. The first and third man pulled Seth's scrotum out flat, and held it hang on. And that's supposed to be and, not add. And put washers through each of his testicles. Seth passed out. The third man pulled out a smelling salt capsule, broke it open, and waved it under Seth's nose. His eyes popped open. No sleeping on the job, the third man said. I like that, the first man chuckled. Can I use it next time? Be my guest. Then they tied wires to the screws and hooked them up to a welding machine that they set up on the table next to them. The machine was an old type that had an adjustment wheel for amperage. The first man turned the wheel down and then turned the machine on. Seth's eyes got big and he peed himself. I like these older machines. You get so much more control than with the newer ones with preset positions. The man said to Seth, with these I can slowly increase the amperage to allow you to partake more fully in the sensation without passing out. Seth started crying and trying to talk. I'll let you talk, but first you have to have a small taste first. Okay, I got too many got too many firsts in there. Take that one out. But you have to have a small taste first. Then he turned the wheel up, and Seth went into a rigid convulsion for 5 seconds. Then the first man turned the wheel down. Seth went limp. The third man removed the tape from Seth's mouth. I'll tell you anything you want to know, he gasped out. Oh, I knew you would. Everybody tells me what I want to know. We were headed to Canyon Hot Springs in Canada. 7 of our chapters are supposed to meet there for the winter. There are 3 other small meeting sites in Canada and a couple large ones in the U.S. as well as several smaller ones. I don't know where. I'm not important enough to know that. Our plans are to wait out the winter, die off, and come back down and take over the survivors and build our territory so that if the government gets back gets set back up, we can take it out. We were hauling the explosives. We were hauling the explosives we were going to use to break into some armories and get machine guns and stuff in Canada and raid stores up there for more food. How did you think you would take control of the people? We'd go in and take the kids and threaten to kill them all if they didn't follow orders. We'd also brainwash the kids to hate their parents. We were supposed to swap kids with other locations so that if any escape, they wouldn't have anywhere to go. After 10 more minutes of telling everything he knew, the first man set the notebook down next to Seth's head and said, "Let's go over everything again." Hang on, let me go to this right here. It's going to be copy. Let's go over everything again. When Seth repeated everything the same, the men started packing up their stuff. The first man pulled out a pair of pliers. "This is for making us work so hard getting the information from you." He proceeded to pull several of Seth's front teeth. Then he grabbed a screwdriver and put a screw into Seth's right eye. "This is to give you a new outlook on life." Then the men left. "Why didn't they take the camera?" Sarah asked. "They wanted the word to get out about the gang's plans to all survivors so they could ow, and cramp. To all survivors so they can be ready for them. Also so the gang will know that their plans have been exposed and what people will do to them," Dino said. "These guys don't fool around." Uh, uh, There were at least 2 other cameras recording this, Candace said. "How do you know there were 3 cameras, and how did you know it was going to get worse?" Walt asked. Candace swallowed hard. "I observed several interrogations of this type while in the sandbox as a field intel officer." She looked around the room, then at Matt. "I know who the leader is. I can tell you if you order me to, but you should know that at least 2 of those guys are CIA." "Tell us," Matt said. "Those are the other 2 names on the list of resources." President Mitchell, Walt spoke up, using Matt's title again to show how serious he was. "What we saw was gruesome and vile, and along with the things that Seth said that he had done, probably poetic justice. That's not my call to make. The information they extracted will save a lot of lives and do some good. The question that rests on you is, what do we do about those 3? "I'm not sure. I'm very revolted by what they did, but more so by Seth's admissions and the gang's plans. Do the ends justify the means? I don't know. Would you like to pass this 500-pound gorilla to someone who knows how to deal with this sort of thing?" "Yes, please. Who do you have in mind?" Sarah looked at Walt and tapped on her chest where Walt had the sat phone and nodded at it. All right, hang on a second. I got to go talk to Mother Nature. I'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere. Let me get down here real quick. Come on, there we go. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, I am back. Walt pulled out his sat phone and hit the speed dial. After a few seconds, Secretary Daniels answered. Walt, I didn't expect to hear from you so soon. Sir, President of the Senate Mitchell needs to talk to you. Oh, that bad? Yeah, Walt said dryly. Here he is. And Walt handed the phone over to Matt. And Walt handed the phone over to Matt. Mr. Secretary, good morning. Good morning, Mr. President. What can I do for you? Matt explained everything that was on the video. As he finished, Walt passed a note to Matt saying he could load the video to WebEOC if Secretary Daniels wanted to have it. Matt nodded and asked if Walt should upload the video. Secretary Daniels said to go ahead and let him know when it was ready to be viewed. Walt hit the upload button, and 90 seconds later, he nodded to Matt that it was done. Matt was done, and he informed Secretary Daniels, who said he would call back after viewing it. So now we wait, Matt said, breathing a sigh of relief. A knock at the door made them all groan. Kathy stepped over and opened the door. Lonnie stuck his head in. Walt, your dad needs you out here. Your aunt's here, and she's being difficult. Oh, man, Walt moaned. Can I introduce her to the new woman of the house? Kathy chuckled and winked at Sarah. No, I don't think that'd be a good idea. A good idea just yet, Walt said, shaking his head. She knows we're engaged, but not that we're married. Not being invited to the wedding might add fuel to her insane fire. I agree, Sarah said. I have a better idea. She looked at Lonnie. Where are the SEALs and Marines? Mark told them to hide when he saw her coming to the door. Hang on, I need to change this a little bit. Lonnie said. They are hang on, I need to figure out how to say this. I need to figure out how to say this just right. All right, there we go. Lonnie said they are they're behind pillars in the behind pillars, the fireplace, and in the kitchen. He added, "Good." Sarah got out of her chair and and started walking towards Kathy. Walt, go introduce the gunny to your aunt. Then Kathy, call out the commander and the captain and have them assemble those SEALs and Marines in the house. When Elizabeth asks why they are here, she leaned close to Kathy and whispered in her ear for 10 seconds. Kathy busted out laughing. That'll work. What are you two planning? Walt asked. Tiredly. Oh, there we go. Do you love me, Sarah asked with an evil grin. Walt threw his hands up. Yes, dear, let's do this. He got up from his seat and walked to the door, with Kathy hot on his heel. Excuse me, Matt. Family matter. He handed the sat phone to Matt. As Walt walked down the hallway from his office, he could hear Elizabeth swearing and arguing and shouting at his dad. She was saying that Walt had no right to exclude her from the ranch, that it should be half hers. Then Stan could be heard saying that he was about to disinherit her if she didn't behave herself. Lizzie, shut up, Walt shouted as he entered the grand hall. Elizabeth stood there in shock, her mouth moving but nothing coming out. Sir, is she unwelcome here? Kathy asked. That she is, Walt answered, getting mad at her himself, getting mad at Lizzie himself for her yelling at his dad. About then, Walt got her voice back. Who's this? Another bed companion? Elizabeth, Mark shouted. That's enough. Definitely enough. Stan agreed loudly. This, Walt smiled, is Master Gunnery Sergeant Kathy Dyer, United States Marine Corps 4th Forcon. Is that supposed to impress me? Hang on, let me make some corrections here. Did I spell it right? Oh, I did spell it right. Yay! Flippantly, Chris spoke up from the back room as he entered. Would it impress you if I told you that she earned the Congressional Medal of Honor in combat in Afghanistan? Elizabeth froze for a second. That second was all Kathy needed. Commander Jackson. Yes, Gunny, he said as he stepped around from the other side of the fireplace. Can you assemble your SEAL team? SEAL Team 3, front and center, he barked out, and 15 SEALs appeared around the room and made their way behind Kathy. Captain Byers. Yes, Gunny, he answered, stepping around the other side of the fireplace. Please assemble 4th Forcon. You heard the Gunny, line it up. 9 Marines joined the SEALs behind Kathy. Okay, just why are they here? Elizabeth turned to ask Mark. We're here to receive a special training from the best close quarter combat fighter in the world, Kathy replied. Really? Elizabeth asked sarcastically. Yes, Kathy smiled wickedly. Our instructor just yesterday killed 78 outlaw bikers in exposed close quarter combat. Before I could get off one shot, our instructor shot 16 of the scumballs. Would you like to see the video of it? Kathy held up the DVD. Elizabeth looked at Mark. Is she serious? Yes, she is. I watched it. It's very impressive, Mark smiled. Would you like to meet our instructor? Kathy said. Now Walt cringed. Okay, Elizabeth answered, unsure of what to expect. Kathy smiled wickedly, and Elizabeth's eyes widened. Master, the Beverly Hills bitch wants to meet you. Suddenly a shout came from the balconies. SEALs, Marines, make a hole. While Walt and Kathy were dealing with Elizabeth, Sarah went up the back staircase. The SEALs and Marines instantly parted, and Sarah came vaulting over the railing towards them. Her black duster spreading out such that her weapons were exposed and easy to see. The way she came over the railing, Walt half expected to see a yellow bat on her chest. Sarah landed with a graceful dip and bounced right up straight with her black Stetson hat lowered over most of her face. To Kathy, may I present our instructor? Sarah Rogers, Walt's wife. Sarah looked up. Get out of my home and never come back. Oh, and don't ever come back. Your home? Elizabeth questioned in shock. She is my wife, and this is her home. She is the woman of the house, Walt pronounced matter-of-factly. Leave or I'll throw you out myself. Sarah snapped. Elizabeth snorted. You're all big with your guns on you. Sarah shucked her duster, and before it hit the floor, was piling her weapons in Kathy's arms. There, no guns. Are you leaving or getting your ass kicked first, then leaving? She set her hat on Kathy's head. Sarah, Walt said softly, think how this will affect your standing with the family. Sarah stared hard at Elizabeth, then looked over at Mark. Do I stand or retreat? She asked him. Mark looked at her and saw a willingness to submit in her eyes and didn't like the look. Stand. Hang on. Stand. Sarah turned to Stan and Martha. Do you want me to stand or retreat? Stan hugged his wife and choked out, stand. Martha looked up and saw Stan's quivering lip. She looked at Elizabeth and then at Sarah, who was looking back, willing to submit to whatever she said. She thought for a second and said, you'll do whatever I say? Of course. Then pull her pants down and spank her. Hang on. Sarah did the double take at that answer, then busted out laughing. Stan looked down at Martha with his mouth hanging open. Walt looked in shocked at his grandmother. That was never on the list of things he ever expected her to say. Mom, Elizabeth protested. You made your bed, Martha said. Babe, Walt said to Sarah, that's your home, your rules. But if you spank her, remember, she's 52 and she deserves one for every year. Walt pulled out his cell phone and started taking a video. Everyone still had their cell phones on them, did the same. Sarah turned to Elizabeth and started walking towards her. Too late to leave, bitch. Elizabeth smiled. I got news for you. I'm a black belt in Tai Bo. She held her fist up in front of her. I'm going to. Ow, shit! Sarah's custom gloves had thick leather for a quarter of the palm that wrapped up around the knife's edge of her hand for fanning the gloves. She also had it extended over her knuckles. So when she was close enough, she punched Elizabeth's leading fist. Her speed was that much faster without the pistols in it. No one saw the punch, but they heard the crack of the bones in Elizabeth's hands. Elizabeth pulled the damaged hand back tight to her body and took quick several steps back. Her face wore an expression of shock and terror. I told you she was the best close quarter combat fighter, Kathy quipped. Sarah was still walking towards Elizabeth, again closing a distance between them. Suddenly, Elizabeth's head snapped back as she stumbled into one of the support columns for the second floor. Hang on. Control C. D-I-L-A. No matches, okay. A-double-L. A-R-S. Control V. There we go. And now V. All right, back down to where I'm at. All right. I knew that I was questionable about the other part. I just want to make it match this here. Sarah moved back or stumbled against one of the support columns for the second floor of the house. Sarah moved in quickly and with her left hand drove her hardest punch ever into Elizabeth's solar plexus. I pronounce that. As she stepped past her, Elizabeth projectile vomited. Elizabeth's hands moved down, grabbed the big fancy belt buckle that Elizabeth was wearing, twisted it loose, and yanked the belt off of her. With her right hand, she grabbed a handful of Elizabeth's hair and dragged her over to one of the tables. As she did so, she flipped the belt up over her shoulder and let it rest there. Then she hooked Elizabeth's left arm with hers, and pinned it behind Elizabeth's back. At the same time, she bent her over the table edge of the table bent her over the edge of the table. Blah. With Sarah pinned to the table, she quickly reached under and undid her pants, then grabbed the back of them and yanked and pulled them down to her knees. No, Elizabeth screamed as she struggled uselessly to get free. A loud crack of leather glove on bare skin split the air, followed by a howl of pain. That was for insulting Walt. Crack! That was for being rude to Mark. Crack! That was for insulting Walt. Crack! That was for Dan. She paused, leaned down towards Elizabeth's ear. I read Dan's journals. He didn't like you at all. He was embarrassed to admit you were his sister. Crack! That was for insulting Walt. Crack! That was for being a bad daughter. Crack! That was for insulting Walt. Crack! That was for insulting everybody in my home. Crack! That was for insulting Walt. And so it continued for 49 times. Sarah was beginning to sweat profusely and starting to breathe hard. She paused, wiped the sweat from her face with her arm. Then she grabbed the belt that was over her shoulder and doubled it up. With all her might, she brought the belt around onto Elizabeth's bright red butt. Crack! That was for insulting. Kathy was a slut like you and was sleeping with Walt. Then Sarah let go of Elizabeth's arm, stepped back. Elizabeth laid there sobbing. Sarah wrapped both hands around the belt and with a grunt swung the belt like a baseball bat. Crack! The blow lifted Elizabeth all the way up onto the table. That was for me. Sarah moved around in front of Elizabeth's field of vision and dropped the belt. Then she placed a bullet from her holster belt and set it down hard in front of Elizabeth's eyes. There's number 52, Sarah growled. Elizabeth peed on the table. The next time you come here uninvited, I'll shoot you in the ass with it. Yeah, I don't like that. Let's put here. Stepped. S-T-E. Yeah. Sarah stepped back and dropped into a chair. Kathy stepped up to her and put her hand on her shoulder and smiled. Words did not need to be spoken. Sarah nodded and smiled back. Kathy then started handing Sarah her guns back. Martha, Rebecca, and Mary walked over to Elizabeth and helped her off the table. Martha wrapped her apron around Elizabeth's waist, and they took her to one of the first floor bathrooms. Elizabeth was muttering through her sobs. She spanked me. She spanked me in front of do that because I didn't do it. I didn't do it when you were a teenager. I let you run wild. I'm sorry. Sorry for that. Yeah, sounds better. Jenna and Anna came over with some cleaning supplies and went to work cleaning the floor and table, chuckling. Stan walked over to Sarah and knelt next to her and hugged her. Thank you for asking first. Thank you for spanking her. Maybe your example of asking permission will get her thinking about her actions. I hope so, Sarah whispered to him, then added with a chuckle, my hand hurts. Karen Mitchell walked up to him. Could you enlighten me as to what that was all about? Stan smiled as he stood up. Never mind. Hang on. Undo. Stan smiled. I'd be happy to. He stood back up. You see, we failed as parents with our daughter. We gave her too much freedom and no punishment. She went on to lead a wild lifestyle and came to believe she was entitled to anything she wanted. We've had a strange. Stan's conversation trailed off as he and Karen walked away. Captain Scott Byers came up to Sarah. Remind me never to piss you off. He chuckled, as did Sarah and Kathy. That entrance of yours was so Black Widow. I think a couple of my boys are in love. Damn, that was cool. Where did you learn to do that? Cheerleading. Where? The Buffy the Vampire Slayer of School of Cheerleading? Commander Dino Jackson asked as he joined them. I thought for sure you were going to break something. Wooden floors are softer to land on than most people think. Don't get me wrong, they're plenty hard and that hurt. But if that were concrete, yeah, I think I would have broken a couple things. As soon as the spanking was over, Chris went back into Walt's office and explained what had happened to Matt, Candace, Kurt, and Joseph. When Chris saw the looks on Matt's and Joseph's face, he explained the fractured family history as Walt had explained it to him, including what Sarah had told him about what she read in Dan's journals. Do you really think the family and Elizabeth will make up? Joseph asked. That's entirely up to Elizabeth, Candace said. Sarah loves Walt, his family, and all his in-laws. Hang on. Except for Elizabeth. Hang on here. Sarah has walked up to me and just hugged me for no apparent reason. Yeah, me too, Kurt added. You know, it was Sarah that got Walt's brother and his sister's boyfriend to voice their true love for their fiancés and propose. She had the insight to see how much they were in love and didn't want them to get left off the ranch during this. She really is the guardian of the family. She sure sounds like an oxymoron. Very loving 1 second and ruthless the next, Matt said. Not really. The ruthlessness is out of love, fierce love. The love of a lioness or a mama bear. The lioness of the love of a lioness or a mother bear. Candace said, you don't mess with that type of love. Matt sat back and thought about it. Tough love? That's the way I see it, Candace answered. Everything she does is out of love for her family and Walt's family. Noticed that there were 2 men from Elizabeth's group standing by the front door. One was the polite man that Sarah had made the deal with for Redoubt Village. The other one was the one that Chris said had pissed Walt off. Sarah stood back up, walked over to him. The polite man seemed to be embarrassed and kept looking down. The other man suddenly got very fidgety and looked like he was about to bolt. I'm sorry, I don't recall your name, she said to the polite man and held out her hand. The polite man looked up. Peter Sloan. He took the hand and shook it. Hello, Peter. Sorry you had to see that, but that has been festering for years. And if she's going to survive in this new world, she needs to get off her high horse and learn to deal with people politely, not demand from them. Yes, she can be very demanding at times. Most of the time, I guess, Peter said. The other man stuffed his hands in his pockets, but Sarah could see them balling into fists. You love her, don't you? The man's eyes popped open wide. He glanced at Peter. What do you mean? You both love her, Sarah sighed. I know the feeling. Don Red Hawk loves Walt deeply, but they were banned from seeing each other by the tribal council in their freshman year of high school. Walt cares for her, but he moved on, and finally we met. I know she still loves him because her brother told me. I don't know how to talk to her about it, and neither does she. Neither she to me. So there we are. Sarah held out her hand to the other man. Hello, I'm Sarah. Hi, I'm Alfred. Alfred DuPont Nomis. He pulled his hand from his pocket. I don't want to get into personal affairs. Hang on. I got to fix this. That's the wrong word. Business, that's better, but still not the right word. Anyway, I hope you get my meaning. They nodded they did. If you really love her, then you need to guide her away from her mindset of being entitled to whatever she wants. Let's go outside for a moment. She gestured to the front door. Gestured to the door. Peter turned and opened the door, and they went out. Sarah moved over and sat on the handrail of the porch and sighed. Elizabeth really pushed my buttons because she acts as if Walt stole this from her. She swept her hand out towards all that was in view. The truth is, she and her brother Dan did not get along at all. They were polar opposites in political views, responsibility beliefs, and much more. He purposely limited her what she got when he died because she had no interest in running a ranch. He knew she would sell it. How would you describe her views? Far to the right, to the left, where's she at? Far left, they both said. And you? Peter hemmed and hawed a bit more before answering. All over the left, I guess. Alfred was more quick with his answer. Moderate to left. The family is moderate right to right, not far right. Can you see a problem there? They nodded. I'm not going to debate you on where you on why you stand where you do. Just ask you to think about this. The world of free mega giveaways is gone. Hang on. Is gone forever. What you have or want, you have to earn or grow or steal. Those that steal will end up dead. Those that work for their gain will not stand for it being taken and given to someone else anymore. That's just the way it's going to be. Can you see Elizabeth on her knees digging in the garden? Peter chuckled. No. Sarah looked at Alfred. No, he agreed. Do you think what she gets? Peter chewed on his lips, but Alfred spoke up. We all earned what we have. We didn't steal it. Yes, some of us inherited some of our money. Glad to hear you're not thieves. But are you ready to get dirt under your nails and blisters on your hands? They looked doubtfully at each other. This is Tawaki. They stared blankly at her. The end of the world as we know it. Not SHTF, not a bump in the road. Southern California is gone, and it's never coming back. It's underwater. San Francisco and New York washed away. Most of the East Coast is a mud pit. The Gulf Coast states flooded, and no rescue is coming. Most of Europe is gone. The same for the Med and the Middle East. My God, I didn't know it was that bad. It's worse. Cheyenne Mountain is a tomb, sealed beneath volcanic ash. The power grid as a whole is gone for decades, maybe more. Yes, we have some power, but that's because the hydroelectric plant is just a few miles away from here. But because some of the big power lines are down, they've cut back on production so they don't burn out the generators. As the lines are repaired, production will increase, but that's going to take months or years to do, and will be limited to a small area. Peter sighed. I'm not sure I'm ready for this. Me neither, Alfred agreed. If you need help, you need to ask for it and repay it in kind. If you ask for help and don't repay it, it'll stop coming. You need to understand that and get Elizabeth to understand it as well. The rain started to come down harder. The rain started to come down even harder, and the wind began to blow harder as well. Sarah slid off the railing. We should get back inside before they think I killed you and buried you in the back 40. Peter started to speak. Only if you hurt anyone here or stole from us. She opened the door. Well, I'm not going to do any of that. As they walked inside, Sarah saw Stan and Martha talking to Elizabeth by the library door. Elizabeth's hand was wrapped to keep the bones in place. Walt was leaning against the fireplace talking with Eric, and it's got to give me to do this here. I need to put in there with Mark and Eric and Diane Thomas. Karen was with Cindy as her shadow was talking with Thomas and Rebecca and Anna. David, Nikki, Sally, and Brian, Michael, and Jenna were trying to keep the teenagers and younger kids from bothering the SEALs and Marines who were talking with Joseph. Kathy was sitting on the corner of a table when she saw Sarah, and when she saw Sarah, she stood up and quickly strolled towards her. A knot appeared got to change that to in, not on, typo, in Sarah's gut. Save. All right. Then she saw the hint of a wicked smile on Kathy's face and relaxed a bit. When Kathy got to her, she leaned over and whispered, I have both videos to play in the theater room. Walt was thinking that Elizabeth and her friends need to see them both. Sarah nodded. Them and the rest of the adults, hang on, who haven't seen them yet. Besides, it's raining too hard for them to drive out of here safely. Hang on, I just had a message flash up. What was that? That was okay. No, I'll do it. Sarah said as she took a deep breath and blew it out before turning towards Elizabeth. As she walked over, Elizabeth's eyes widened and she spoke in a panic. Mom, Dad, I better go. We'll talk more later, I promise. And she pulled away from Sarah, held up a hand showing she wanted her to stop, and Elizabeth stopped short. It's raining too hard for you to drive safely back right now, so I'm inviting you to stay until it's safe for you to drive back. Dead silence dropped over the hall like a switch had been thrown. The silence was broken by Walt slipping off from leaning against the fireplace and hitting the floor hard. A smile flashed on Elizabeth's face and disappeared just as quick when she glanced at Sarah. Sarah chuckled to herself and spoke. Babe, you need me to kiss it better? Snickers to outright laughter erupted from around the room. Not now, maybe later. More and louder laughter came forth. Elizabeth's mouth dropped open. She saw Sarah's face all scrunched up, trying to suppress laughter. You are mean. No, I love him. I tease him, and I will kiss it better tonight. Repeatedly. That's what true lovers do. Oh, Elizabeth said in surprise. Now will you accept my invitation? Uh, it's not for your own safety. If not for your own safety, then how about for the safety of the two men who love you? She tilted her head towards Peter and Alfred. What? Alfred doesn't love me. It seems that he does, Peter said. And now that I think about it, I think Robert does too. Oh, crap. I can't deal with it. She turned back towards her parents for support. Looks like you got more than you wanted, Stan said. Actions have consequences. What? What? We'll talk later, Peter said, putting a hand on Elizabeth's shoulders, and looked at Alfred. All of us. Elizabeth just nodded. In the meantime, are you staying? I guess so. I don't think we should be driving right now, rain or not. Good. We got 2 videos you really need to watch. Actually, I screwed up on that. Hang on, let me figure this out for a second. No, there's 2 videos they have to watch. A third one which is the autopsy video, which is always mentioned as a extra one. There's another option. We have 2 videos you need to watch. Kathy will show them to you in the theater room. Okay. Follow me, please, Kathy smiled. As they walked towards the theater room, Elizabeth asked, did you really get the Congressional Medal of Honor? I don't like to talk about it, but the answer is yes. I'm sorry for what I said earlier, she choked out. Walt's good looking, but he's too young for me. Sarah waited until they were almost out of the grand hall before she spoke. Everyone over 18 who has not seen the video of the battle with the biker gang or the interrogation video, you need to go into the theater room. Deputy Harden, will you go give your background on the video you brought? Of course, but do you really think we need to show it to them? Get with Kathy, and it gets to the point that she thinks they can't take that part of the video. Just play the sound. I want them to hear the gang's plans. Pause it or skip it as much as you think needed. That sounds good to me, Walt said as he walked up. All right, don't blame me if anyone barfs. Sarah and Walt and Sarah looked at each other, Ziploc bags, and they took off together towards the kitchen to find some. 2.5 hours later, 25 pale and obviously shaken people came back into the grand hall. Even the 2 SEALs and 4 Marines that were sent in to view the second video were a little peaked. Grumpy Thomas walked over to Sarah and took her hands and pulled her to her feet. With tears running down, hug on her. Thank you for killing those bastards and protecting us. Rebecca came up to join the hug. Then Mark and Mary and Stan and Martha and Carol and Earl. When the circle hug released Sarah, when the circle hug released Sarah, comma in there, they moved on to Kathy. Michael and Jenna, David and Sally, and the rest formed up a line, each in turn hugging Sarah and then Kathy. The last 3 were Peter, Alfred, and Elizabeth. Peter stepped up and offered his hand. Thank you for your sacrifice. My sacrifice? Yes, Kathy said you sacrificed your innocence to save others, including those you don't like and including those you don't know and those you dislike. He quickly shot a glance towards Elizabeth. Thank you. Sarah just nodded. Alfred stepped up and shrugged his shoulders weakly and stammered, I've been an asshole. I've never done anything for someone else. You gave up a lot. Kathy told us that you and Walt put your love on hold for over a year and a half to help everyone else. I'm ashamed even to be in your presence. He turned and hurried off and said thank you to Kathy as he hurried by. Elizabeth slowly walked up to Sarah with her own eyes cast down. When she lifted him, there was confusion in him. I need to know from you, these men who tortured the outlaw biker, are they worse than the bikers? Can I answer that for you? Candace said. Please do, Sarah answered. Sarah responded. Oh, I changed that. Responded. Elizabeth, when I was stationed in Fallujah, I was in Air Force intelligence and observed several interrogations like that one on the tape. In fact, I know two of those men in the video. They did not enjoy doing what they did. They did it for the same reason Sarah and Kathy faced down those bikers, to save lives. But it seems so wrong. I know. Candace paused and bit her lower lip before continuing. But what of the lives that will be saved because we are able to warn others now that we have the gang's plans? What of the little girls that won't be raped? What of the little boys that won't be sodomized? The parents that won't be killed? Would you rather those men didn't get that information to stop the biker gang? Does the ends justify the means? In this case, I pray that God says it does. I have so much to think about, Elizabeth muttered. Then she turned back to Sarah and clutched her injured hand to her chest. You could have killed me any time and no one could have or probably would have stopped you. Yet you didn't. How come? You're Stan and Martha's daughter. They still love you. They just hate your dumbass, selfish behavior. I love them and couldn't hurt them by killing you without cause. Please don't ever give me cause. I'll try not to. But I have a question. Why did you beat my butt so hard? I had to beat some sense into your brain, and your head was so far up your ass. So through your butt was the shortest distance to get to your brain, Sarah said flatly. Have you pulled it out yet? Hang on. Have you pulled it out yet? Elizabeth stared in shock at Sarah for a few seconds, and then she chuckled softly. Yes, I think it is. Well, hang on. Well, I'm working on it. Then added quickly, if it gets stuck back up there, can you think of a less painful way of getting it out? No guarantees, but I'll try. Sarah smiled wickedly and winked at Kathy. Maybe you should stick to spanking me. How's your hand? Rebecca thinks the bones were just dislocated and should be fine in a week or two. I don't know which hurts worse, my hand or my butt. Those in earshot laughed, and Martha moved over to her daughter and gave her a hug. We weren't so wrong in our beliefs, were we? Martha asked. What are we going to do? She moaned. Everything great is gone. No TV, no internet, no Amazon, no spas, no YouTube. Hang on. No InstaFace, no Twitter, no Facebook. Sarah started laughing hard and fell down on the floor, kicking her feet against it. You still don't get it, she laughed harder. My Lord, you really are a Beverly Hills Valley girl. Gag me with a spoon. She laughed harder yet, trying to and held her sore sides. Others were laughing too. What? I miss those things. I believe what they are trying to get across to you is that the greatest things you can have is not the internet or TV or shopping or any of those things. It is your family and a home, not a fancy building, but a warm, loving environment. Elizabeth turned to the new voice. Who are you? Before he could answer, Sarah spoke as she struggled to get to her feet, holding her side. Elizabeth, this is my newest friend. Now standing, Sarah took Elizabeth by the arm and led her over to him. This is the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Matt Mitchell. Elizabeth stared with her mouth hanging open. Nice to finally meet you, Matt held out a hand. You're Sarah's friend? Question mark. She stammered out, yes, I am. And he stopped when Elizabeth fainted. Wow. After all I did, all I could do was get her to pee herself. You made her faint, Sarah said with a chuckle as she struggled to hold Elizabeth up. Now that's intimidation power. All right. Okay, we've been at it for 3.5 hours. All right. If anybody has any preferences to continue for another half hour or so, or cut it off here, type a Y in for yes to continue, a no for no to stop and cut it off here, and we'll pick it up tomorrow. All right. Let me get some of my water here. And I do not see anybody responding on any of the screens. All right, so nobody has any preferences. So I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Hang on. Let me highlight this area here so it stands out when I come back to it. All right, so let me pop back over here. Oh, there we go. And with that, so tonight is Wednesday. Yes, tonight is Wednesday. Tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 Mountain Time, Trampus Creek Homestead is going to continue interviewing me. This is part 2. Last week was part 1. Did 2.5 hours last week. She wants to go again tonight. So I will stream it also to my channel. So it'll be on both Trampus Creek and Gray Man Prepping, so you can pick out whichever one you want to watch it on. So that's what's coming up tonight. Tomorrow we'll pick up where we are right where we just ended on chapter 2. We'll start that at 9 o'clock in the morning Mountain, 11 Eastern Time. And yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So everyone, stay happy, stay safe, and we will see you tonight.